The Supreme Court nominee we now know is Brett Kavanaugh, judge from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one of the most respected, if not the most respected, court of appeals. That's right underneath the Supreme Court in the nation. A respected jurist. And this was apparently going to be Trump's pick all along. We learned from our NBC News reporting that there's a report that Kennedy and he kind of struck a deal. Kennedy in the White House struck a deal that Kennedy would retire. He liked Kavanaugh all along, and that this was going to be the guy all along, and the others were sort of a head fake. So what do you think?
Well, we were talking about this backstage. First of all, Kavanaugh gets confirmed. Collins and Murkowski already approved him back in 2006 to the appellate court. So this talk that, they're going to be able to block this, it's probably silly talk. However, this notion that all of the justices are from these two, no, don't point at them. Princeton, Yale.
Smart people.
Forget political diversity and ideology. The fact that the court itself has just become this sort of elite.
Why did they go to my alma mater, Albany Law School?
Right.
We have produced many fine jurists. I don't think we've ever had one.
Absolutely no. Harvard and Yale have a lock, it seems, on the Supreme Court.
Trump has that sort of elitism when it comes to Ivy League pedigree. He likes that stuff.
Every other president, including President Obama and before him Clinton and so forth. That's why we have the Harvard-Yale lock on the Supreme Court. But in terms of what does this mean moving forward, there is going to be a knockdown, drag-out, release the Kraken type of fight over this nominee. I mean,
when is there not a political fight over?
Yeah, but this is a little bit of a different dynamic, right? When you have Merrick Garland, who was stonewalled, who was Obama's pick, and now you see the results that the Republicans were able to gain from that, and now you have two people in the first 18 months of Trump's presidency, and you have someone who has written that presidents should not be subject to criminal investigations during their presidency.
He wrote that in a law review article back in 1998 and never submitted it as a proposed law or an actual change. He said Congress ought to do something to protect a sitting president from having to deal with that nonsense. And they didn't.
But he wrote it. He thought it.
Who cares? He doesn't legislate. He was saying Congress ought to do it. As somebody who's worked in a White House, I think it doesn't make sense. And he was talking about Clinton and or Bush. It wasn't a partisan thing. It was just like, why should we have a sitting president have to deal with this nonsense? But he never did anything to actually make that happen.
And I think that's.
But he can't make it happen. He's ultimately going to rule.
So who cares?
If he's confirmed, he's going to rule on potentially on issues related to the ongoing criminal investigation of the president. And if he's already expressed opinions that the president should not be subject to a criminal investigation, that's something that I think is going to get a lot.
You think that's disqualifying?
I think it's something that needs to be vetted very, very carefully.
No. I can tell you don't think it's disqualifying.
Look, I love it when the two lawyers get into it.
To me, here's why I'm on you.
It's like watching tennis.
To me, I find it so irritating. I have covered wall to wall the confirmation hearings in D.C. of Chief Justice John Roberts, of Samuel Alito, of Elena Kagan, of Sotomayor. I've looked at this going back in history. Scalia was confirmed by a vote of 98 to nothing. The two people were missing that day. Scalia, who was obviously hard right. Elena Kagan, Sotomayor, confirmed with high 60s votes, right? In the high 60s in the Senate, 67 for one, 63 for the other. The Democrats lost this fight on November 8th, 2016. The only question now is whether Brett Kavanaugh is qualified to take this office or is so radical that no reasonable person would put him on the Supreme Court. Trump deserves his choice, just like Obama deserved his choices. Sotomayor belongs on that bench. So does Kagan. So does Kavanaugh.
What about that last choice that Obama had?
Yeah, that's
political maneuvering.
Right.
Of course, that's
you can appreciate why
partisan nonsense.
Why a lot of folks on the left, you can appreciate why they are still carrying around that.
They're bitter.
Right. They may be bitter.
I get it. They should have taken out their bitterness on November 8th, 2016.
And they may want payback. But the question being, is Kavanaugh, is he qualified to be a Supreme Court justice? Let's also remember that when he was confirmed to the D.C. Circuit Court, he got 57 votes in the United States Senate. Democrats voted for him.
That's not a lot, by the way.
Well, Democrats voted for him then. I think what we're going to see as we're moving forward, we're seeing it right here at the table, is that there's going to be a huge fight over the direction of the court, what that means.
That fight has already been lost
but Megyn, the point
by the Democrats.
that a lot of conservatives say, part of the problem of why we have these pitched battles over the Supreme Court is because of too much activism on the court. And if we went to these issues through the legislative battle, you would see that more in
But that is what the
politics and
originalists
elections.
on the high court believe. Antonin Scalia used to say from the bench, and I sat in the court for 3 years for Fox News, listening to the arguments every day, in addition to my 10 years as a lawyer. And what the originalists, like Scalia, like Kavanaugh, believe is not that they should be making law from the bench. Their position is not, we hate abortion or we hate whatever the rights are. Their position is, why would you want 9 guys and gals in robes making these decisions for you? We're just going to tell you what the Constitution requires and what it doesn't require. And if you want the law to say something else, go take it up with the people who actually do have to answer to you, the ones you elect.
So when you and I have our hour-long special analyzing the originalism, I will disagree with you, because it's a legal sleight of hand to say that originalists are not activists. Over the last decade or more, the, quote, originalists have been incredibly activist. They've struck down many laws, and that's what the conservative right has been pushing for 3 decades, and this is finally what they believe is their success story to get the court with 5 very, very conservative members.
I will say this. I do think, and President Obama has alluded to this in the past as well, I do think that those on the right have managed to turn the Supreme Court into more of a galvanizing political issue.
100%.
And now you've got a lot of folks on the left who are
intending to do the same.
Well, yeah.
And by the way, this is the benefit of the Trump bargain, right? I think a lot of conservatives, social conservatives, religious conservatives who objected to a lot of his rhetoric, a lot of his character, ultimately they said, we're going to vote for him because this is what we want, and it's only a year and a half in.
Because the justices he would appoint are very, very different from the ones that Hillary Clinton would have appointed. But I'm telling you, if you sat at home on your bottom on November 8th, 2016, because you just didn't, whatever, then you have waived your right to complain. Trump put out his list of people he wanted to nominate, and most of them were far to the right of Brett Kavanaugh. And the American public put him in office. This is what elections are for. Presidents get the right to appoint Supreme Court justices. The Senate has the final say. But for history, for all of his, I mean, you look back at the votes on Ginsburg, Scalia, to the far, left to the far right. They all got overwhelmingly concerned because he used to be in this country that we understood those principles until Robert Bork. You can Google it, the history, how it all went south. Yep. Save America. We'll be right back.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.